Hey, everybody, big things ahead. But don't worry, we're not going anywhere. For the past 15 years, Zen Parenting Radio has brought you thoughtful conversations about mindfulness, parenting, compassion, and self awareness, and a bit of pop culture, too. Well, we're ready to modernize.
We'll be exploring the same themes, but from a new direction. As Gen Xers who grew up with pop culture and are now raising kids in it, we've always known that pop culture plays a big role in our relationships and family culture. And it's been a touchstone, a conversation starter, and a way we've stayed connected and made sense of the world. Starting June 1st, you'll hear us talk more about the shows and music we grew up with and what's new now, and how it all reflects our societal values, our blind spots, our potential for growth, and the ways we connect with our children and each other. We'll still be diving into mindfulness, parenting, compassion, and self awareness, but pop culture will be our main entry point.
For example, you might be interested in how MTV shaped our beliefs in parenting, why George Michael's father figure has somehow stayed relevant and even interesting to our kids, and how the True Hollywood story on Robert Downey Jr. remind us what addiction looked like long before he became our kids' hero as Iron Man. We're also making the shift because we believe, especially right now, we all need more reminders of our connection, a bit of optimism and humor, and a historical pop culture lens to help us remember that we're still in this together and that we're going to be okay.
It's a small shift that means a lot to us. We know that pop culture is a mirror, and when we look at it with curiosity and honesty, we find deeper insight into who we are, what we care about, and how we want to show up in the world. So stay tuned. The title and topics will be new and exciting, and the heart of the show will stay the same. But we think you'll notice a renewed enthusiasm and joy. It's a more modern and genuine approach that reflects who we are today. So get ready for
Zen Pop Parenting.
There's so much more to come.
Here we go. My name's Todd.
This is Cathy.
Welcome back to another episode of Zen Parenting Radio. This is episode number 816. Why listen to Zen Parenting Radio? Because you'll feel outstanding. And always remember our motto, which is the best predictor of a child's well-being is a parent's self-understanding. I only get to say that one more time, sweetie, next week.
Right. But you can say it.
No,
I mean, not that whole lead in, but you're going to say, I don't want people to think we're like going away.
But we got to make space for the new to come in, and we got to let go of some of the old.
Yes. Well, we're going to have a new intro.
Yes.
And new words. But, you know, the best predictor of a child's well-being is a parent's self-understanding will always be the heart. And it's just going to get more fun from here.
It is going to get more fun. So on today's show, Cathy has two Substacks. One is free, comes out on Friday. One is paid. It comes out when? Wednesdays, or
Wednesday.
Is it random?
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's my plan. The last two I've done have been Wednesday.
So we're going to blend both of them and have some fun along the way. The first one that you wrote, and I'm just going to mention about both of them, is called What Adds Peace and Fire?
Yeah.
That was the free one?
That was free.
And then the second one, do you remember what you called the second one?
Something about what matters. I don't remember.
Sweet doesn't remember. I'm going to tell you exactly what you said.
Okay.
A word for when it's all too much.
Oh, yeah. A word for when it's all too much.
So
because I found a new word. I like finding new words.
Yeah, and we'll say what that new word is here in a little bit.
Especially when the word explains a nameless thing. Like a word describes something that we don't have a name for.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and then I think you referenced there's a guy who wrote a whole book on that.
That's such a great book. I wish I would have written that book.
Do you remember what the name of that book is?
Something about nameless names, nameless words. I don't remember.
Yeah.
I've written 3 things since then. My brain it's kind of like podcasting when someone's like, I listened to podcast number 720. I'm like, dudes.
Yeah.
I have no idea what that is.
So he's got no idea.
We just keep on trucking as you would.
John Koenig.
Uh-huh.
The Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows. It's a book. It's an awesome book that names the nameless things we feel. Have you bought this book, or
No, I just saw it online.
Is it like, I wonder if it has like 100 or like 1,000 in there.
I don't know, but it's really good. Like when I say I saw it online, I saw a bunch of the words, and all of them deserve a Substack, article.
Yeah.
But that was just the word that, came to me that day because I wanted to use it when I was talking to my daughter.
Yeah. So let's break down the first one,
Okay.
which is what adds peace and fire.
Mm-hmm.
What was the inspiration, and what is it that you were trying to communicate to your readers about adding peace and fire?
Well, I heard somebody say that they read books that either add peace or fire to their heart, which is a very lovely way to describe why you would choose a book, why you read a book. And I just thought about it for days. I was like, oh, that's so cool. And part of the reason that I thought it was really a great way to describe how to choose books, or anything for that matter, how to choose your work, how to choose the music you love, how to choose the TV show you want to watch. Like, it's not just for books, but was because it was a complete somatic experience. So it wasn't someone who like read what the best book was or figured out, through data what the best song should be or whatever. It was a completely feeling experience of like, if something makes me feel peace in my heart, if I feel peace, or if I feel fire, which I don't know what fire means for you, but to me, it's like it could be anger, a sense of wanting justice. It could be a sense of drive, or like, like passion, like you get really worked up about something. And so I just kind of wrote about what is it for us that, creates the passion, or I should say the peace and the fire in our hearts.
So we're going to talk about that Substack first, but
Okay.
just to kind of give the listeners an idea, we're going to talk about the somatic awareness, which is what you just talked
Uh-huh.
about, and blend it with the emotional spaciousness that you talk about in the second one. Okay.
Okay. Great.
But I just want to read a paragraph from your Substack and have you just kind of riff on it. Okay.
Okay.
I love how this phrase bypasses thinking entirely and goes straight to the body. It's not about what makes sense or sounds impressive. It's fully somatic, focusing entirely on what we feel. The tightness in the chest when something doesn't sit right versus the ease when something feels true. The numbness or the apathy versus the heat from anger or a need for justice. Instead of chasing what sounds smart or what others people think is good, we go back to what the body already knows. I love that. And the reason I love it is because I'm going to speak to all the people that reside in their head more often than they reside in their body and their feelings. And I raise my hand as one of those people. And as I've shared so many times on the show, I'm leaning into that feeling state, into that heart-centered state, into the body sensation versus what is it that I'm thinking. What is it, Kierkegaard who said, I think, therefore I am? I don't know who said that, but
Uh,
just that idea
right.
of like, yeah, that makes sense. Whatever I'm thinking is who I am.
Which that was always taken out of context, though.
Oh, it was?
Yeah,
What do you
like there
think he
was
meant?
more said,
Oh.
like that. But keep going because your point is
So,
clear.
anyways, so that's why I love this writing that you did, because it reminded me of something that I'm continuing to work towards. The challenge, though, is I sometimes try to get there by thinking more. And instead of getting my head out of the way and then just feeling what it says, whatever it is my body's saying to me. So I don't know if we want to go over some of the things that, so the listeners can come up with their own examples of what peace in the chest feels like today, because you have a whole set of bullet points here that kind of brings you peace.
Yes, I do. And before you read those,
Sure.
I think, therefore, I am a philosophical statement by Rene Descartes.
Oh, Descartes, yeah.
And it means the very act of thinking proves a person's existence. He used this as a starting point for his philosophical inquiries, suggesting that even if everything else could be doubted, the act of thinking itself demonstrates the existence of a thinking entity.
Do you think he would have agreed if the phrase were "I feel, therefore I am"?
Maybe. I don't know enough about him to like say what
Yeah.
but I don't think he was saying thinking is the only thing. I think he was pointing to thinking as the ability for us to think for ourselves indicates a separate being.
Yeah. So
So anyway.
So what were some of the things that you put on your list of things that bring
Okay.
you peace?
Let me see if I can remember them. I think the first one was rabbits.
Yes.
I think that
Why do rabbits bring peace in your chest?
because I love rabbits and they're so sweet and they're also very independent and they also are very soft and cute and I just love rabbits. I'm saying we, but we're rabbit people.
Sure.
If you're a rabbit person, then you know what that means.
Yeah, we're brothers and sisters with you.
Yeah, we are rabbit people.
What else?
Let's see. I was just writing something else about the things I do to help calm down. So I'm going to mix these things up. But, things that bring me peace, drinking water, taking walks, listening to music. Give me one so I can think of my list.
I'm just gonna read a few of them.
Yeah, read a few of them
and
see if I can continue.
give a sentence or
Sure.
something. Reading good writing.
Yes, I love that sentence because that doesn't sound like a well-written sentence. So it was paradoxical. Reading good writing.
People who are inspirational and optimistic.
Yes. Wow. That's a given. I used to search Threads, and now I tend to not search Threads as much, and I search Substack for good writers who are very inspirational and optimistic because I need that right now.
Sitting outside.
Yes, of course.
People you love.
Yeah, that's you. And the girls and my family and my friends.
And your rabbit.
And my rabbit, except my rabbit passed away.
Rip Smokey.
Yes.
Driving the Jeep with the music up.
Yes, the Jeep, of course. The Jeep is my one of my safe spaces.
Yes, it is. And the Jeep is a good technique to bring our daughters from a place of dysregulation into regulation.
It is.
Do you want to share more about that? And I want to just like set this up because sometimes our kids are having crappy days, right?
Uh-huh.
And sometimes it requires movement. It sometimes requires a change in environment. And when our daughters are sometimes like just really stuck, we say, do you want to go take a Jeep ride and go get some ice cream?
Yeah, or just drive around. So yeah, and the thing is it sounds kind of privileged because you can't go just grab a Jeep. This is something I've wanted my whole life.
Well, the idea is for people to hear your examples,
yes,
and come up with their own.
Right. Yeah. Good point. So I like to be outside. I like I like driving around without a roof. I used to like convertible cars, and now I like a Jeep because you know what? A Jeep is higher up too because it feels more sturdy.
I learned that the hard way, sweetie.
What do you mean?
Well, when I didn't have the soft top retracted all the way back, I drove into the garage, not realizing. Yeah, so
it was rough. He had done it before. So
talk about beating yourself up. I did a great job of beating myself up.
It was so sad. I knew in the moment. I'm like, Todd is gonna be really upset about this. So anyway, there's something about driving around with the air. You know what I mean? You're like outside, but driving around. Duh. And then there's one of the things in the car. Like I didn't need nice seats. I didn't need a lot of niceties in the car. The one thing I really wanted though was a really good sound system.
Yeah,
because listening to music was really essential. So I have a really good sound system. So you can listen to music and be outside. And to Todd's point, not only do I use it for myself for regulation, but a lot of times when I feel like the girls are really stuck, I'm like, let's go for a drive and, fresh air, a good song, go pick up a iced tea or a ice cream or something. It just gets you out of your head.
A few other things that you shared, and I'm going to share a few of mine, even though I haven't thought much about it. Texting funny memes.
I love memes.
Brunches with your own pot of coffee on the table.
Dude. Have you ever well, I know you do. I'm talking to the listeners. When you go to like a coffee place or a brunch place, breakfast place, and then they bring you coffee and then they leave a little coffee pot for you. I mean, that's one of my favorite things.
I can understand why, but I don't experience that because I'm not a coffee person. But one thing that inspired me to give mine was your last one, which was lilac trees. We planted these lilac trees in our backyard and a summer ago, and
last year
they just have finally. I don't remember these suckers blooming the way they did.
I think we got them when they had already turned leafy.
Yeah. So every time I walk by that area of the backyard, it just brings me joy and peace. Speaking of the backyard, about 5 o'clock in the afternoon every day, there's this bright red cardinal that sits atop of the telephone pole, which is right in our backyard. Same spot. And he just sings.
It's great.
And he's like, he's always looking to the west, which is towards the sunset. And there's something just very harmonious and beautiful about that. And that brings me some lightness in the chest. And then last one, and you probably will make fun of me for this one.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, if I've had a really productive day, I love that. Like there's nothing that makes me feel better than having a productive day.
I'm not going to make fun of you for that. Everybody likes to be productive.
Well, but this is sometimes a little bit of tension between you and I.
I appreciate, I think your version of being productive is different than mine. That I don't think if there's anything wrong with being productive. We're alive. Why not go do those things? I think that what I appreciate is also going out and pulling weeds and mowing the lawn and going and, maybe chopping up strawberries so everybody has them. I find things for other people to be productive as well. And I think you are very computer focused of how many emails can I get out? How much work can I get done? And my definition of productivity, I think, is a little broader. Reading a book is productive to me.
Sure.
Taking a walk. You like to walk, but it's not like you have
I like to walk with you when you have two good legs.
Yeah, I've had some pain in my leg lately. But I think, do you feel the difference between, because I think your version of productive is like I'm on my computer, I'm checking off emails.
Well, even yesterday was kind of a down day for us. It was Sunday, which is the Sabbath, which means we could do whatever we want. And I washed all three of our daughter's cars. And when I say I washed them,
That's a good example. That's a different kind of productivity.
yeah, but that makes me feel good.
For sure.
Instead of watching the PGA, which was horrible, by the way, because Scotty Scheffler just kind of ran away with it, I didn't watch them. Let me be honest. There's a buy two, get one for free deal at the car wash.
We've talked about the car wash because I wrote a Substack about it.
That's
Remember?
right, you did.
The chaos of the car wash. I get nervous. Can I say something else? So can we focus on that for a second? Because I think this is a good conversation between you and I, and everybody else can listen. Is that I think, when I was talking about people who are inspirational, I felt good yesterday because my oldest daughter's home for a few days. My daughter, JC, who just graduated from college, and she went and sat outside with her book and started reading. And I'm like, I'm going to go sit outside with my book and start reading. And that feels really good, where it's like someone's drawing me out of this like world of constant
productivity
work. And you you are 99% all the good things. There's nothing that I want to like take away from you, but you do not inspire me to do stuff like that.
Heck no.
You are, if I want to slow down and do something different, you're like on your computer constantly. So I liked having someone in the house who's like, I'm going to do something different, because then I feel more comfortable doing that.
One of these days, sweetie, I'll start reading.
Well, reading, or just if you were like walking around, I mean, I'm making this up because you don't really have to do this thing, but like walking around the yard, like picking up weeds, or I'm going to like fix this thing in the shed today. And that you're actually doing something that's like, that
has nothing to do with my laptop.
Correct. Because you're very computer focused.
Yes, I am.
So my problem is I'm very affected by that, and that's not your fault. So it's like, because I tend to want to get things done and be productive, I'm like, if I want to slow down, I've still got this guy in my house who's sped up. So I'm kind of like, it's harder to stop working.
I get it.
So we have these conversations all the time.
I'm always seeking for an opportunity to bring some type of pop culture into our podcast as we transition to a different format in 2 short weeks.
So excited.
And I told you over eating some food together this morning to come up with a song that makes you think about peace in your chest and then fire in your belly or whatever. Is it fire in your chest too?
All in the chest.
Okay, all in the chest.
Heart and lungs.
And this was yours. And the idea is for the listeners to come up with their own version of it.
Well, which one is this?
This is the one.
Which one is it? Peace or fire? You didn't say.
This was peace. Not much fire going on here.
That's not true. There's passion.
Can't you see
True.
the sunshine? Can't you just feel the moonshine? And ain't it just like a friend of mine to hit me from behind?
All right, you ready for mine?
No, because I want to talk about it.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Don't you want to talk about why these
I was just going to play them, but you can talk about it. Go ahead.
Yeah, so that is my peaceful song because it reminds me of my dad, but it doesn't make me sad. It like just is kind of like, it's a vibe that he had where he liked that kind of music. He loved James Taylor, and it was just, and the thing about that I love about that song specifically is that it's followed me in every stage of my life. So it's like my dad liked it before I got to college, and it was kind of his song. In college, I liked James Taylor, so it became kind of mine. And then every stage of life, it just kind of keeps going, like it's part of my favorite playlist. And it's a very calming song. And it is about James Taylor being somewhere and he wanted to be home. And he daydreamed, the song is about daydreaming that you're home because North Carolina was his home.
Is that where he's from?
I don't know. That's what the song is about. Now, I don't know if that's where he was born, but that's where he wanted to go back to.
Sometimes musicians pick words because they fit into the cadence of the song. You know what I mean?
Yes.
They won't let their truth get in the way of something that sounds good.
I think it's more autobiographical than that.
Okay.
Yeah. So that I love everything James Taylor, but see, Mexico makes me sad. And, Sweet Baby James makes me sad. And Going to Carolina it's the first song on Greatest Hits too. So it just sets a tone for my body. I calm down.
Here's mine.
Yeah.
When I find myself in times of
I
trouble.
don't know if any explanation needs to happen for this.
It's about his mom.
Still let it be.
Paul's mom?
Yeah. Remember in the James Corden thing, he explained why he wrote that song?
Yeah, if you want to spend 20 minutes on YouTube that's worthwhile, is watch the whole James Corden, Paul McCartney carpool karaoke. It's
awesome.
It's pretty outstanding.
So I've loved that song too. And when I hear Mother Mary, I obviously assume a religious.
Sure.
But his mom was named Mary. So
No.
it's literally Mother
Very
Mary.
good. Okay, fire in the chest, sweetie. What do you got?
Oh.
What gives you fire in the chest?
Tracy.
Oh no, we were going to talk about it before we played the songs.
I'll play the song and then we'll talk about it.
All right, so let's do that. Where is she? She's right here, right here. All right, here we go.
Don't you know, talking about a revolution sounds. Don't you know, talking about a revolution sounds like a whisper while they're standing in the welfare line.
All right, sweetie, what do you got?
I just, again, this song was important to me in high school. Like, I think it was junior or senior year. Again, partly because of my dad. Again, these are obviously related to my parents. He was a huge Tracy Chapman fan, and he would talk to me all the time about how, if you listen to that song, about how you can't push people down like that. They will come back and they will rise up, as she says, but that is not only is it not good for human dignity and all those basic things, but that's not the way human behavior is you push people down, they will come back. And I think we're just in a time right now where that song has always been meaningful, but when I hear it, I know exactly where I am, who I am, what I believe in, and what I value.
Yeah.
Period.
You want me to tell you what some of the things on the list that you put on?
Say that sentence again.
Do you want me to tell you some of the things that you put on your list?
Oh, about feeling fire.
Fires in the chest.
Go ahead.
Perimenopause.
Literally.
Parentheses, literally. Hypocritical behavior.
Yep.
Lying and cowardice. Cowardice. Gender inequality. Greed. Narcissists. Loss of rights and autonomy. Women being excluded from medical research, leaving them misunderstood without proper treatment.
Yes, all of those things bring fire to my chest.
Yes.
I get very frustrated about all of them. And that's in leadership and political power. And it's also just in everyday experiences. Any of those bring me a lot of that sound, that's fire in me.
Yeah. I started just like more general, like I'm more like human traits or tendencies and arrogance.
Yeah, you don't like arrogance.
Although there's plenty of times when I'm either arrogant or I want to be arrogant, but catch myself.
Sure.
So there's a little bit of that in me. Entitlement.
Same kind of world.
Same, yeah, just any part of that. And, stupid politicians doing crappy things that steal from future generations and people that have less privilege.
It's and the hypocritical nature of it, not that I'd be okay with it if people were saying, yeah, I'm I'm stealing from people and I'm worried about myself and not other people. Not that I would be like, well, okay, but the hypocritical nature of basically projecting what certain people are doing onto others, like, oh, those people are corrupt or they're awful people, when it's them who are doing awful things.
That's right.
And
It's called projections.
Yeah, projection. And it's frustrating.
My song, and it's simply because it was relevant to one of our Zen Parenting conferences, but you had to.
So good.
I can't keep quiet for anyone. Not anymore. 'Cause no one ever.
For those of you who don't know what this is a song called Quiet from a singer-songwriter named Milk. Hold on. She's building up here.
Monster, they may run away, but I have to do this. I can't keep quiet.
Really? Oh my God.
The best part is coming. Keep
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Okay. It's just super powerful. Just got a great video that I'm watching right now.
Yeah.
Like they do a story to the video. I thought it was just a live thing.
Yeah.
Milk, man, she was the best.
I know.
She is
like,
the best.
That part makes me cry all the time.
Yeah.
And that song, she wrote that after she experienced sexual assault when she was younger and never talked about it. And then just realized how much it was affecting her behavior in life and choices. And so she finally talked about it and wrote that song. And then 2016, for the first Women's March, she had a group of women and men too, there were some men there as well, sing that song, and someone caught it on their phone, like taped them, recorded them singing it. And then the song went super viral and she was on a bunch of talk shows. And then Todd and I asked her to come to our conference in 2017. I think it was the Rob Bell conference, right?
Yeah.
And we've had some amazing speakers at our conferences, but I think she was the most impactful. I mean, we were sobbing.
Yeah, that was was by far the most powerful moment in any of our 6 or 7 conferences that we did.
And that she sang a bunch for us. It wasn't just that song, but every song you could feel her. Yeah. Like, so Todd, that was a great pick. Like that whole thing. I mean, it just,
well, and it just encapsulates what we're talking about, with you feeling something in your chest.
I know. I cry every time.
Like you could take the lyrics out of that song. The lyrics are super powerful also, but just listen to the instrumental and it'll just, get you.
Yes.
So quickly pivoting over to your second Substack.
Yeah.
And what did we decide? What did I say it was called?
The word.
A word for when it's all too much. And I just want to read your first paragraph to kind of remind you, because you've been writing since then. When someone I love is hurting, I want to help and I want to fix it, but rushing in too quickly to make it better, pointing out a silver lining, or jumping in with my own story. Hey, that happened to me once and I got through it, inevitably backfires, leaving them feeling unseen, maybe even frustrated that I wasn't present for their experience. This is a parenting podcast, and I think that sums up maybe 15 years of our podcast, which is, instead of fixing your partner, your employee, your children, your good friend, just be with them.
Yeah.
What else do you want to say? And we'll get to the word in a second, but what else do you want to say about this?
It's that mix of things, everything, nothing is black and white where it's like, sometimes, when you're listening to someone's parenting advice or just advice about relationships overall, we can be very literal, like, oh, I should just listen. Okay, then I'll just listen and I won't say anything. And that's not real human behavior, right? I think when we're saying, hey, be a listener, that means the most. That's true. Listening does mean the most. And there's also acknowledging what you heard, giving feedback on what you heard, and also sometimes offering a new viewpoint, not trying to solve the problem, but giving a new viewpoint. And I think that's the one where I talked about Marianne Williamson, right?
Yep. Well, and I don't know where I heard this, maybe from you, maybe from CLG, but the term is full body listening. Sometimes when I'm listening from the head alone. And my goal is to be able to listen from the head and the heart and the gut. And on my bad days, I'm not listening at all. But on my slightly better days, I'm just listening from my head. And then when I'm doing really well, I'm listening with my whole body. And somebody be like, well, what the hell does that mean? Like, I don't know. I just know that there is a way of connecting, not just through thoughts. And
well, I think it's like what we talked about last week's podcast. It's empathy, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's the reason why it's such an interesting or messy conversation is that I do appreciate the words you just used, and you're 100% right. But you also have to have boundaries. You can't give your whole body over to somebody else. Like, I like the idea of I'm going to give my heart and my soul and my everything to this listening, but you also have to have some sense of like, I know where I begin and end, and I know where you begin and end.
Right.
And so
you could easily get lost.
I could. Yeah. I think that it depends on where your starting point is. And like to your point, you're like, sometimes I used to use my head and now I'm using my body. And for me, I used to use my body.
Yeah.
And now I have to be more thoughtful about having a boundary.
Yeah, that's interesting because you might have a default mode of full body listening, and you got to be careful around that. Whereas I have not a default mode of full body listening, and it's something I need to lean in towards because I rarely get lost with whomever is in front of me. And as a matter of fact, my default is more being a little bit closed off, and yours is being a little bit more spongy.
Too open. Like a visual that I have right now, I don't know, like 5 years ago, I used this imagery of, if you guys have seen Stranger Things, of what's his name? Will, thank you. When Will is taken over by the, whatever that essence is, that it's actually that we know who it is now. It's, starts with a V. Yeah, it's thank you. Yeah. You're crushing.
Oh, yeah.
Vecna, there's this in the second season, he's taken over and this whole thing like goes through his body and it's a really like harsh scene where you just see it like kind of taking him over. And 5 or 6 years ago, I said that's how I felt like when I got the flu, which was true.
That's right.
But I can also use that imagery of sometimes when I'm listening to people's stories, if I'm not careful, is I allow it to kind of go into my system, into my chest, into my stomach, and I like take it in my body.
Yeah.
Where then you're like, I'm sick. I didn't help you at all. And so some people may say, well, that's love. Not really. That's like unhealthy for both of us. I should have more of a boundary when I'm listening so I can stay sturdy and support you.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's kind of the visual that I get of the not way to listen.
So the word that you share is called liberosis.
Liberosis. I like to put my fist in the air.
John Koenig from the Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows. Liberosis is the feeling of wanting to care a little less, to loosen the grip on life, and to let things feel lighter, freer, and more fun. And you talk about a volleyball. What is a volleyball?
So it's kind of interesting because he created that word, and libero is an Italian word, and it's like, being free or, something, freedom of expression or something. And Osis is like,
State of being.
State of being. We always put Osis at the end of words. Those of you who remember the SAT, you had to know all those kind of things. And then libero is also, I guess, I'm not a volleyball player, but I guess that is a volleyball playing position. And it just means that that person gets to move around the volleyball court freely. Like they are, like, think of another sport where, like, maybe in soccer, you're the one who gets to run to the other side of the field. What's that person called?
Which sport? I was looking at my screen.
Oh, soccer. I was saying like another sport where you get to be the
I think of a free safety. Football.
Safety. Okay, that's good. So, and then also he continues the volleyball analogy to talk about the fact that liberosis is kind of allowing yourself to be like a volleyball, moving from one thing to the next with more freedom, more lightness, not so much expectation, not so much connection to having a certain outcome, that there's just a little more freedom of expression. And I think that way of being is, and it's connected to the word liberation, right? Where we're more liberated, so we can actually enjoy life and not be like, it was supposed to go this way. This isn't fair. This is going the wrong way. Therefore, everything's bad. It's like, can we have a little more space to trust that maybe what's coming right now could be useful or helpful, and that we're more like a volleyball going from one thing to the next. Now, for people, just like we were talking about our last issue with having a different starting point, for people who are too free-flowing, who have a hard time grounding themselves, maybe liberosis is not going to be their word. Mm-hmm. But for people who are overstructured or who are hold tight to certain outcomes or need things to be a certain way all the time, or think that they've failed if things don't work out exactly the way that their brain thought it should, liberosis is a form of liberation of like, I'm going to be more open about this. And the bottom line about it is we can enjoy life a little more than we do.
Yeah.
Because if we decide the only way we like life is if things work out the exact way that we thought they should, it's going to be a rough road.
Yeah.
Because we're not the only ones in the world. We're part of a big puzzle.
Yeah.
So we're not going to be able to get somewhere without traffic because other people drive places. We're not the only one driving. We're not going to be able to get every job we interview for because other people interview for it.
We are part of a system.
We are part of a system. And sometimes things go the way we planned, and that's great. But when it doesn't, can we be a little lighter about our expectation? And we can set another goal. Like, goals are not a bad thing. They only become a heaviness if we think that's the only way we're going to enjoy life or succeed, is if everything works out the way we thought it should.
I'm not sure if this makes sense, but whenever I'm watching a football game, let's say, and then somebody's praying to God,
correct,
that will bring them victory at the end of the day, whether it's for a Super Bowl or just a regular game. And I'm always like, well, what about the guys on the other side, on the other sideline? Like, because they're might be praying to God too. And I don't think that's the way, if you believe in God, not sure that's the way it works. I don't think God might help, or higher power might help us stay healthy and not get hurt. I think there's some prayers that can be answered for that. But the idea of to pray to beat somebody else who might be praying for the same thing on the other sideline just always seemed a little weird to me.
If you get too cut and dry about those things, it doesn't really work, does it? I mean, if you can use our prayers and having the universe have our back and, asking God for support to be our best selves and our most confident selves, but also not connecting that to an actual outcome, because sometimes being our best selves and our most confident selves is the ability to have humility. Like, not everything is about winning or losing. That's a very black and white.
Well, and winning and losing is a very human thing.
Right.
If you're asking universal energy to do something human, it's not in alignment.
Do you think the cavemen were doing like football games?
Well, what makes sense to me, maybe what makes sense to me is like the Native Americans they had a god, they had a sun god and a rain god.
Right.
Like, that makes sense to me. Like, okay, give me some rain because we need to
feed ourselves
and do all that. So why did you mention Marianne Williamson?
Oh, so because this whole idea of liberosis, it's like, why would a word change anyone's life, right? And I said that one thing that really stuck with me when I read A Return to Love, which was her book that came out in like 1994, is it was based on A Course in Miracles. And one of the things that she explains at the very beginning of the book is a miracle is just a shift in perception. That I think sometimes we see a miracle to mean like something miraculous happens.
Jesus
in front
walking
of
on
us.
water.
Exactly. Like that's how we perceive a miracle in our culture. But she defined a miracle in her book as a shift in perception, because if your perception shifts, everything you look at changes, right? And so, if you have an idea of like, oh, I think being lighter and not holding so tight to expectation is really the way I'd rather live, then all of a sudden your relationship with expectation completely changes and your ability to have humility totally changes. So I just used that as an example of if we shift the idea of how we see things through just the use of a new word, that's a miracle.
Well, it's funny. There was a book by Wayne Dyer way back when that I think we probably both read called When You Change the Way You Look at Things, the Things You Look At Change. And you'd be like, well, scientifically, it doesn't make any sense, because if I'm looking at an object, whether or not I'm observing it through one lens or through another, it's still, that object is still there. But I think with quantum mechanics, they now know that the mere act of observing something does sometimes change its inherent nature. And I'm not smart enough to explain it well. There's something called a double slit experiment, and it has something to do with when there's somebody looking at this experiment, the particles change from waves to matter or something like that. When nobody's looking, it goes back to waves. So anyways.
Well, and you're right. And that is a very pragmatic, literal, educational way of looking at it. And
Welcome to my world.
That's
sweetie.
valuable. But I also think what he means, because he's also basing that on A Course in Miracles.
Yeah.
And I think what he's saying is if you have a better, deeper, more heartfelt understanding of beauty, where you recognize beauty to be an energy and you recognize beauty to be something that someone exudes, and it's not just about physical appearance, then all of a sudden you're going to see people and things as beautiful in a different way. So when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Meaning if you had a very surface experience of beauty where you're like, beauty means this kind of hair, these kind of eyes, this kind of skin, then you're going to look around and be like, that person's not beautiful. But if your idea of beauty changes, then you're going to look at things and you're going to be like, that's beautiful.
Sure.
So it's like, there's Todd's educational way of looking at it. And then there's just this real basic, like when your idea of something changes.
Of course, we can all shift our perspective.
The word productivity, right? We were just talking about that. Like if in your gut, or not gut, but in your head, the productivity is about, I checked everything off my list.
Yep.
And what if productivity meant a long conversation with someone? What if it meant being in the sun?
Sure.
Do you see what I mean?
Well, and not to take a deep dive, but it goes back to value. What is it that I find valuable? And what I find valuable is checking stuff off my email list so that I can be perceived by the outside as having some value. Getting things done. And let's just say your example of productivity, or your illustration of productivity, is really connecting with another human being in a deep, authentic way.
Or connecting with something deep in me, like where I'm like, ooh, I feel good doing this. Or, oh, I haven't sat in my meditation area for a while. Or, oh, there's the lilac trees. I'm going to go like take some and put them in a cup. Like all that feels really, but here's the thing. This is why it gets really interesting to talk about, because your version is not wrong. It's like, I can't look at you and be like, whatever you think productivity is, it should be more like mine. I think that you have I think for me, something that's important to me is to expand what I was taught about productivity. I don't know if you feel that way.
Well, and it goes back, and this is probably the wrong use of the term, but universal principles, because these are not universal principles. These are very specific principles. But one thing that you and I have sort of agreed on since we started this podcast 15 years ago is that connection is food, right?
Right.
Connection is the oxygen of relationships, and the value of somebody's life is predicated upon the value of the depth of their relationship.
Well, go back. You just said this is based on universal principles, but these are like, what were you
Right.
talking
I was going to say connection is food is a universal principle.
Got it.
But that's not true. Some people might say that's not what life is about. Life is about survival.
But see, I would debate that and say that we have enough research to demonstrate that the reason that we are here is to be connected. Now, someone may say, what does that mean? And we'd have to give all these subcategories. Like the fact that we can only live on this earth if we are recognizing our connection. Someone picks the food, someone grows the food, someone picks the food, someone takes it in a truck to a grocery store. There's someone who's at the checkout. Like, we have to be in connection with each
Well,
other.
and some people might be like, what about the hermit that hunts his own food or her food and doesn't do anything? They could be connected to the earth, right?
Correct.
But they could not be with any other. They could potentially be connected, not to any other human beings. You and I tend to focus on other human beings, human relationships, because so in other words, you could still say that same thing even for somebody who lives by themselves in a secluded manner.
Well, and you're right, and they could be connected to the earth, but I would debate. First of all, there are people who live an isolated life,
Sure.
But it's hard to believe that they wouldn't want connection because that's how we are hardwired. Now, someone could be away from connection because they've been hurt or traumatized and they may be fearful of connection.
Sure.
But I would still feel like their behavior and what's going on inside of them, they'd still feel whole. They'd still feel disconnected because, it does get into physics. Like, we have this need to connect with other people.
Yeah.
Which is why, like, I've heard so much in the last month about people using AI for coaching and for therapy. Not only Jason's podcast, but one of my friends was telling me her husband's been using it all the time.
Yeah.
And I actually am okay with that in the terms that, not that anyone.
It's a tool in the toolbox.
Exactly. It's another tool for people who can't afford therapy, whose lives are not allowing for whatever reason. That's great. I also know that real change and really more in-depth work necessitates conversation with a human being.
Between two people whose heart beats and nervous systems fluctuate.
Correct.
As opposed to a bot.
Just that alone, the regulation of someone, the part of why do we like having pets? Because pets can regulate us because they also have heartbeats.
Yeah.
They're calm.
Yeah.
We get calm.
They have energy.
They have energy. So the whole idea of that we're going to get everything we need from AI, a lot of people are going to lose jobs. I mean, that's definitely true.
I feel like I can regulate my nervous system by sitting under a tree, which is alive,
Sure. It's
obviously,
alive.
somewhat inanimate, 1,000 times faster than work through ChatGPT.
Yeah. Yeah,
But a tree can't respond and listen and validate. I mean, maybe it can. I don't know. I'm just kind of playing with this exercise. I don't really know. Well, yeah, go ahead.
Well, to your point, it is a tool. Like, I also think, like, last night, Cameron came home and she was car sick because she was looking at her phone in the car. Her boyfriend was driving, so she wasn't driving while looking, but she came home and she walked in and she was like, oh, I'm car sick. And the first thing I always say is lay down on the ground, go outside, lay down on the grass. Like, the ground will ground you, literally. Like, you have to lay there for a little bit. It's not instant, but that is the nature of something that's living and breathing below you.
Right.
And that really will work. Now, and some people, are like, I'm going to take a Dramamine. That may work too.
Yeah.
Like, let's use all the tools that we have, drink water, whatever, but they're all good. It's just recognizing that from what I understand, and maybe 20 years from now, someone will be like, that wasn't true, but I've done a lot of reading about this and research and teaching and writing, and we need each other, guys. Sorry.
We are going to close the show unless you have anything specific that you want to share that we haven't had a chance to share.
I don't think so. I think the only things that I would like to share is just to kind of line this up for everybody that as Todd said, Zen Parenting is coming in 2 weeks and you'll love it. I promise. And you're already subscribed. You don't have to.
We've already recorded 2 shows.
Yeah. It's so fun and it's still deep and we still have lots of meaning in it. So if you like this show because you learned something, believe me, there's plenty to learn. Zen Parenting is coming. If you really like focusing on very specific parenting questions or ideas or observations, join Team Zen because that's where we do our Q&A when it comes to parenting. And so Todd and I can help you through personal things, whatever it may be, support you in whatever way we can, as can the rest of the Team Zen community. If you like to read things, if that's the way you like to, learn, please go to my Substack. You can subscribe for free, or you can upgrade to paid. It's super cheap. It's like $5 a month. It's nothing. I mean, it is something, but it is not.
It's not going to
it's not
break
crazy.
most people's banks.
It's like a coffee. I got a coffee this morning with nothing in it, and it was $4.
There you go.
There was nothing in it. And then the last thing is, if you or if you are a man listening to us, Todd has an organization that he runs called Men Living. And I highly recommend you at least start following them, getting their newsletter, joining their very many meetings that they put on every week.
Get at least one a day. I'm leading my last advance for a while, I think, in September in
Explain
Virginia.
what an advance is. People
It's
don't.
it's like a retreat. We used to call them retreats, but it was not sitting around just laying there. There's one part personal growth, one part connection to yourself, Mother Nature. We spend a lot of time outside and other men, and then we also have some fun. Play softball or floor hockey or dodgeball or something like that for a weekend from a Thursday through a Sunday. And this one happens to be inspired by the music, title, lyrics of Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon. So if you're interested and you identify as a man, then that the link to learn more is in the show notes of this podcast.
And sometimes Todd and I do classes that are Team Zen and Men Living together.
That's right.
Like last month we did a class about menopause and supporting your partner, and this month or this upcoming month we're doing one about getting your kid ready for college.
Yeah.
So
we're going to close with the Osis illustration that you had at the end of the Substack.
It was my picture of John Bender.
So I'm playing the last 46 seconds of The Breakfast Club.
Nice.
And for those of you guys who have seen this movie as many times as Cathy and I have, you don't need the visual because it's already in your brain. But not John Bender, John Hughes is going to kind of take us out.
And John Bender.
So here you go.
Dear Mr. Vernon, we accept the fact that we had to sacrifice a whole Saturday in detention for whatever it was we did wrong. But we think you're crazy to make us write an essay telling you who we think we are. You see us as you want to see us. In the simplest terms, with the most convenient definitions. But what we found out is that each one of us is a brain, and an athlete,
and a basket case, a princess,
and a criminal. Does that answer your question? Sincerely yours, Breakfast Club. Don't.